Welcome to 5 Minute Clinics, where I share music production tips not commonly found on YouTube in 5 minutes or less. This is the new Nashville studio, which has exactly the same equipment as our Salt Lake studio. I just moved here for work. But anyway, today's episode will be about how to link multiple pieces of automation together in Ableton to speed up your workflow. And if these are useful to you, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. That way you'll get updates anytime new content comes out. So jumping right in, I have a little bass synthesizer track that has 4 different parameters that are automated. And not only are they automated individually, but they relate to one another. So whenever a couple parameters go up, I want the other parameters to go down. The effects kind of rely on each other for the overall impact on the song. Obviously, we could do that individually by automating each one. However, if I changed my mind on how I wanted this to go and I wanted automate like that, now I'm going to have to go into each of the other individual pieces and automate those bit by bit. So this obviously can take a long time. You have to think about it. If this one's going down when the other ones are going up, you're going to have to reverse the flow here. And that can just take a really long time. So what do? What we can do is we can link all of these pieces of automation together, and that way when you change one automation path in Ableton, all of the automations will change together. So the first thing we want to do is group all the effects into the same audio effect rack. So we can shift click them all, group them together, and now we have a audio effect rack with these in a chain. And then the next thing we want to do is, instead of automating these individual knobs, we're going to map them to a macro knob like this, except instead of mapping each one to a different macro knob, we're going to map them all to the same macro knob. So you can actually overload this one knob so that all of the effects are changed with the one knob. Okay, so now you'll see if I'm moving this, all of the individual effects change with it. However, they all change in the same exact way, and we might not want that. Meaning some effects, when we increase their effect, we would want other ones to decrease. Still other times we might want some to span their entire range, while others we only want to alter within a narrow range. So how do we do that? Any of these now driven effect knobs, we can right click one of them, and you go to Edit Macro Map. There's no keyboard shortcut for this, but what it does is it pulls out the ranges for each of these knobs that we wish to use. And the nice thing, and it's not too obvious from this, but you can actually specify this with a minimum that's larger than the maximum, and that actually makes the effect turn down when you increase that knob. So from our original, let's say we had this go from 0 only to half the scale, or the second one used up the full scale, and let's say third and fourth actually decreased when the first two were increasing. So let's say the first one decreased the full range of the effect, and the other one decreased from a 80% to a 20%, something like that. If we hit escape, now we can see that when we change this one macro knob, it changes all 4 of those effects knobs, but within those ranges and in the directions that we want. So now you might be able to guess the next step. Right click this, show automation for this one effect, macro 1. Let's just name this something a little bit more descriptive, linked effects. If we move this one effect up and down, and we're going to play it, keep your eyes on the other effects and see how they change. So we're effectively drawing the automation for all of them simultaneously. This makes it much easier to update that automation much more simply, much more quickly than if we had to edit each one of the effects individually. And again, we can exploit the fact that we can have them going either up or down, and only within a narrow range or using the entire range of the effect.